Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rampart podcast. This is episode 2, where I'm going to talk about Moses and his leadership. Thinking about Moses, I think he's probably one of the most important leaders in the Bible. Over my time in the military, I always tended to relate to Moses and the struggles he had with leading the people out of Egypt. But there's a couple things about Moses that make him a really good leader. He had a good vision. He followed the vision that God gave him to free the people from Egypt into the promised land. He fulfilled God's promise. Another trait he was courageous and he had determination. Despite his own personal insecurities, he confronted the Pharaoh. He spent many years enduring complaints from people, rebellions, and hardships without abandoning his mission that God gave him. He had a good servant leadership. He put people's needs before his own. Even when God was angry with the Israelites, he maintained his composure and compassion for the people he was leading. He was a good lawgiver and organizer. When he was on Mount Sinai, Moses received God's law and taught him to the people. He established moral and social order amongst his people. Even though Moses doubted it, he was an effective communicator. In some of the verses we're going to read today, he was a good mitigator between God and his people. Moses continuously communicated the needs of his people to God. He encouraged others and guided the people. He also demonstrated faith, overcoming his self-doubts. He resisted God's calling, feeling unqualified, but yet he grew confident as a leader through God's help. So last week we talked about God's calling for us and how he picked Moses to deliver the people from Egypt and how we doubt God's plan for us. So today we're going to talk about Moses freeing the people of Egypt and his trip through the desert and through the Red Sea. So today we'll be in Exodus 14, and we'll start with chapter 10. When the word reached king of Egypt that the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. So the Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its own commander. As the Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking him. They cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness.'" But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." So to me, Moses displayed really good courage and determination. Everyone's doubting his leadership. He's leaning on God's plan for him. So he trusts in God. I have to think that Moses at this time was really doubting himself and doubting God's plan, even though he witnessed everything. You have to think Moses went from being a sheep herder to seeing God in a burning bush to now leading a whole bunch of people out of Egypt. In fact, I want to say that the total number in Exodus 12 calls out 600,000 men, and that only refers to adult males and not all the women and children. So it could have easily been a couple million people that Moses is now in charge of. And, I couldn't imagine having that many people you're standing in front of that many people and they're just doubting every single thing you're saying. So it really displays Moses' courage in this moment. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the water so the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will charge in after it." Then Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the Lord opened up a path through the water with a strong eastern wind. The wind blew all that night, turning the seabed into dry land. So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground with the walls of water on each side. When all the Israelites had reached the other side, the Lord said to Moses, "Raise your hand over the sea again. Then the waters will rush back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots and charioteers." So the sun began to rise. Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back into the usual place. The Egyptians tried to escape, but the Lord swept them into the sea. Then the waters returned and covered all the chariots and charioteers, the entire army of the Pharaoh. Of all the Egyptians who had chased the Israelites into the sea, not a single one survived. So all these millions of people are witnessing the power of God. And what's crazy to me is I couldn't imagine witnessing any of this one thing and I would just be all in. If God was like, hey, check this out, and he parts the sea and he's like, walk through it, and I'll walk through it. Like, it doesn't matter where God leads me, I'm not going to doubt it. Even if I starve to death and die, that's God's will. I know God exists. I'm going to go be with God. But the people still doubt Moses. In chapter 17, verse 1, at the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of sin and moved place to place. But there was no water for the people to drink. So once more, the people complained against Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord? But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what should I do with these people? They're ready to stone me. The Lord said to Moses, walk out in front of the people. Take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and call some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock and water will come gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the rock as he was told, and the water gushed out as the elders looked on. These chapters really represent the importance of leadership. Even in the absence of Moses while he was on top of Mount Sinai, the people decided to worship a golden calf, which is crazy. They saw God's power in Egypt. They saw God taking care of them along the way, that God was able to provide water for millions of people and food, and they still doubted him. This is why displaying leadership is one of the most important things you can have. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a husband, a wife, or you're just by yourself and you work at a donut shop, God calls you to have a purpose, and you have influence and are capable of leading people. Especially if you're a parent, setting values and goals and boundaries for your kids will help them make wise decisions when they get older. If you're a husband, you need to lead your family. If you're a wife, support your husband and lead your family. It takes teamwork. So these chapters really represent how important leadership is. Without Moses' leadership, the Israelites would never have been freed from the Egyptians. Moses' patience and courage showed when he was dealing with the struggles between his people and God getting angry. Even Moses was able to calm God down because he was so angry at the people of Israel. Leadership is a vital quality that influences how people live and work and how we relate to one another. It's not just limited to like presidents and teachers and people in charge of our community. Leadership begins at home and extends in every part of our life. Good leadership provides direction, promotes understanding, and helps us make positive choices. Whether it's in our family or at work, leadership creates harmony and order to everything. Really, the most important part is being a leader in your family. It plays a role in shaping the character and values of our children. Being a parent is the first leader that our kids are exposed to, and guiding them through life's challenges can be difficult. And together, husband and wife, we move forward with shared goals for our family. The most important quality that I've seen over the years is leading by example. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Never ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. When the days become really tedious and every day seems to be the same and you're losing faith and hope, good leaders will show up every single day. And the hardest part is to do it with a smile on your face. I know I'm guilty of that. It's really difficult to stay positive when you're having a hard time, but it's really important because people are watching. Your kids are watching. Your coworkers are watching. Everyone's looking to you for guidance. It doesn't matter if you think you're a leader or not, you are. If you're a husband, lead your family. If you're a wife, love your husband and lead your family. If you're single, who do you interact with on a daily basis that you can make an impact on? Staying positive and encouraging others will help them through their journey. So last week I did mention I was going to talk about some of the findings that support Moses in crossing the Red Sea. There was a gentleman named Ron Wyatt, and back in the 70s and 80s, he had an expedition out to the area that they suspected was the location for the crossing. And they found chariot wheels, armor, human bones, horse bones at the bottom of the seabed. And what's really cool is that these wheels were in line with the 18th dynasty. That would have been what the Egyptians would have used back in the period of time that covers the story of Exodus. And I believe it's Ron Wyatt's daughter or somebody, I'm not 100% sure, but they wrote a book called The Battle for the Firstborn, The Exodus and the Death of Tutankhamun. And the book covers a lot of the evidence in detail of what Ron Wyatt found. Another interesting fact is that the parting of the Red Sea is also referenced in the Quran. So even in Islam recognizes that it happened. So super cool stuff. I like that evidence. Even if modern archaeologists don't want to validate the information, it's still proof it happened. So I want to wrap up this episode with a quick prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to read about your word and read about Moses crossing the desert and freeing the people of Israel. Lord, I pray that you grant us with patience when it comes to your calling and your will. Lord, I ask for mercy when we don't follow your direction. And Lord, I just ask that you instill patience and understanding in our leaders and in us, so that way we can trust in the process and trust in the guidance of our leaders of our country and leaders of our communities. And Lord, I hope you keep everybody safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So thanks for listening this week. Next week I'll have something new for us to cover. And as always, stay safe out there.